Hey, this is Tell the Truth Sports Radio. I'm your host, Ron Fitch. I'm going to tell you the truth about teams who played well and teams who underachieved and played lousy, including my team, and Alabama versus Ohio State. First, we're going to talk about the NFL. The best game of the weekend, other than the Colts and the Bills, were Baltimore and Tennessee. Tennessee came out firing. A.J. Brown was chewing Humphreys up early. Humphreys got him late. And then Lamar Jackson threw a bad interception. Lamar Jackson had a look on his face like, oh no, here we go again. I was thinking, oh no, not another bad Lamar Jackson performance. But the biggest play of the game, Tennessee up 10-0, was Lamar Jackson makes a pass to Mark Andrews on the run for 17 yards. It was their biggest first down. It allowed them to get a field goal. Then they get the ball back, and Lamar Jackson takes it 48 yards for a touchdown. And about the 30-yard line, Lamar Jackson shows you his track speed, where he just flew past the secondary. You could just right through the end zone. That's the best sound effects I can do. But that stabilized them. And then they started getting stops because they stopped Henry all day long. But they got stops. They got the ball back, and it was a typical long drive, long 70-yard drive, ending with a J.K. Dobbins 4-yard run. It was just chunks of yards up and down the field. It was a typical vintage Baltimore drive. They're up 17-10. And that was it for a while. For Tennessee was in Baltimore put them on lockdown. They stopped the run, and Tennessee couldn't get the pass going because Humphrey started to do a better job on Brown. And then Tucker makes a field goal, 20-13. Then in the fourth quarter, Tannehill gets intercepted. And this is the problem I had with the game. With about 10 minutes left, it's 4th and 2 at the Baltimore 40. Tennessee needed to go for it. That was the biggest mistake of the game because you know you were not going to stop Lamar Jackson. And you weren't going to go 3 and out. You needed to go for it. You ran Derrick Henry up the middle for 8 yards, and you didn't. You need to run him up the middle for another first down to get in Colts in Baltimore's territory. Now you got a chance to score a touchdown to tie the game. But they made several mistakes like that, and Baltimore goes on and wins. And Lamar Jackson gets his first win, 17-24, 74 passer rating, but he was efficient. 179 yards. He was smart, and he ran for 136 yards. So that's kind of Lamar Jackson, 179 passing and 136 rush. That's kind of Baltimore's formula of winning. And Dobbins was solid. Hollywood Brown was really good. He was used, sometimes he dropped balls. He was really good. Andrews was solid. 109 yards receiving. Baltimore did what they had to do. And the Buffalo Bills get their worst nightmare. They could have gotten an easier game if Pittsburgh could have won. They could have beat Pittsburgh for sure. You get Baltimore. I'm just going to tell you right now, Baltimore's going to go to Buffalo and beat Buffalo. And let me get to the Buffalo game. Buffalo looked good. They weren't the awe-inspiring Buffalo Bills that everybody said they were going to be. Oh, this is the team that could beat Kansas City. Listen, I watched all the games yesterday. Nobody's beating Kansas City. And I'll get to all the other AFC games. But you look at what hurt the Colts. The Colts lost because Frank Reich had a bad day. He's a good coach, had a bad day. It's 10-7, Indianapolis, after scoring a touchdown, getting the lead. It's 4th and goal at the 4-yard line. You kick a field goal, you go up 6 points. He goes for it because when they got to the goal line, they got nowhere. So obviously you're not getting anywhere when you got to the goal. You got to feel the situation. Situation called for a field goal. He did not kick the field goal. Stupid. It was dumb. And Buffalo, and I knew this was going to happen. Buffalo went right down the field to score before the half to go up 14-10. Allen, who ran the ball well, who will not be running the ball against the Baltimore Ravens. I do want to tell you that. Then Buffalo gets the ball, in the right after, and the key to these playoffs is you score at the end of the half after you deferred the kickoff, and then the next series you get the ball to start the half and you score again. And that's what Buffalo did. It gave them the lead. And the Colts missed a big field goal between not kicking the field goal and missing the field goal. Those were points they needed because it was 20. It was 27-24, and they blew it. I'll be right back after that. We're back here at Tell the Truth Sports Radio. Before I get into the Steeler Brown game, the last minute. This is another reason why the Colts lost. The last minute was ridiculous. They're driving, and they take their sweet time. It was a conversion of a pass. Yes, it was 4th and 1. They rush up the middle with 1:32 left. Jonathan Taylor gets the first down. They go in the huddle, and they waste time all the way to about a minute left. And now they're trying to get down the field, and the plays were terrible. Sideline routes overthrown. It was a mess. Buffalo, congratulations to Buffalo. They get their first win. Now we talk about Cleveland get their first win, because when time stops for no man. The longer we go, the more chances that teams that don't win end up starting to win. They get better draft picks. You might start to see the Lions and Jacksonville and the Jets start to win because you get draft picks, you get the right coach and the right type of team, you're going to start to win. And before I get into the Steeler game, I talked when I had Kev Easy on and I had my brother on. We were talking about the Browns and Steelers, and we definitely picked the Steelers. But I put a disclaimer out there. I said, listen, it's all according to how they start. If they start bad, they're going to get beat. I don't care if it's a high school team. And they look like a high school team yesterday. They started out hiking the ball over, which they haven't done in years. They hiked the ball into the end zone, and they're not even coordinated enough to recover. The Browns recover. Again, Ben throws a bad interception. Browns score. Ben, it's 3 bad plays and a punt. Browns score. Another bad interception in their own red zone, in their own zone, and the Browns score. So it's 28-0. It was a typical, that's how they did against Jacksonville. It's a typical underachieving Pittsburgh type of a game. And the Browns were good enough to take advantage by putting 7s, no field goals, all 7s. And the defense, they didn't have the offenses back. So they kind of imploded. And the offense really imploded. And then you do the empty calories. After 20-0, the game's over. And then they couldn't get the key stops when it was 35-23, and Ben had the ball, couldn't do anything with it. And then they scored empty calorie touchdowns, and it's 48-37. But it was a massacre, and it was bad. And if you look at the box score, it wasn't awe-inspiring by Baker Mayfield, but he did the job. 3 touchdowns, 363 yards passing, 92 QBR. Chubb had 76 yards, so he didn't even have 100. Hunt had 48. So they just took advantage of, and then Landry had a big game with a touchdown, 40-yard touchdown, and Chubb had a 40-yard touchdown. But congrats to Cleveland. They move on, and they wanted the game. And they were able to just sit back and watch Pittsburgh implode. So they didn't really have to go all out, but they have the win that they have. It was a good win by Cleveland. And I'm going to get on Pittsburgh first. Juju Smith run his mouth again. I'm fed up with him. And I'm fed up with my organization. I'm temporarily ashamed to be a Steeler fan. Now, when summer comes, it'll be different, but at this point, I'm ashamed. I have to hide and put my caps away for the winter until summertime. It was you embarrassed the fan base. That was disgusting. It was a good effort by Cleveland, but it was a combination of Cleveland doing what they're supposed to do, but it's bigger, it's more of the mental weakness and the mental midgets that were on the field in black and gold. And Ben doesn't have it anymore. The 400, whatever yards he threw, that was empty calories. He doesn't have it anymore. And the franchise, there's a dark cloud on the franchise. that's happened over the last, since the Super Bowl, I'd say the last 12 years, there's a dark cloud, 13, there's a dark cloud on this franchise. It's crazy to say a franchise with 6 rings, but there's a dark cloud on this franchise. And it had started with Tebow. And then Jacksonville. That was the worst loss because that was a team that was thought of to be a Super Bowl team, but they were arrogant and overconfident. And then Tomlin was talking about the elephant in the room was New England not paying attention to Jacksonville. Jacksonville upset them at home, missing the playoffs, the drug suspensions of Le'Veon Bell, the holdout Le'Veon Bell, Martavis Bryant. When you're one receiver short of a Super Bowl, he did drugs. So there's always this franchise is an accident waiting to happen, and there's always something going on with this franchise. It's a mess, and they're gonna need something special to happen. I'll give you an example. Kansas City was kind of a mess. They were in the same kind of boat the Steelers were in. They just kept losing in the playoffs. Andy Reid comes there. They underachieve. They lose to a not so great Tennessee team at home. They lost to the Steelers at home. They thought they were going to play to New England. And it was just one bad loss after the next. Not showing up in New England. But one player changed it all. And it was Pat Mahomes. When they drafted Pat Mahomes, it changed the whole look of the franchise. You're sitting there in championship mode now. The only way the Steelers go from turning into Jacksonville and the Detroit Lions is a trade, and they have to go get Deshaun Watson or Matthew Stafford, either or. Dak Prescott is the third one, but Stafford, especially Deshaun Watson wants out. You go get him. You do what you have to do trade-wise, and that'll change everything. That's a game changer because now next year you got a dude that could go up against the Baker Mayfields and the Burrows and the Jacksons and the Mahomes, and he's hungry. He wants a title. You go get him, and then you got to hope that you don't have such terrible misfortune. Another reason there's a dark cloud in this franchise, there's always that key injury that keeps them from competing. The Bud Duprees, the Bryants, Le'Veon Bell when Ben was in his prime, throwing for 600 yards in 2 games in a row. Then Burfict hurts Bell. Or you were receiver short when Brown got hurt in a concussion. And then they game against Denver, they're running back there on their way to winning, the running back fumbles. Then when you play New Orleans a couple of years ago, a chance to play in the playoffs, Juju Smith fumbles. And now you got Juju Smith just overconfidence. He was going to run to the Cowboy logo. He's going to run to the Dallas Cowboy logo during the Dallas game after a touchdown when they were losing. So he's a mental midget. I don't care about his stats yesterday. And then he's just, the Browns are the Browns. So the Browns were fired up yesterday. The Bills were fired up before the game because you went to the logo. So it was always something with him. He's a free agent. I'm thinking about letting him walk. I'm 100% sick and tired of this guy's act. Let him go to the Jets. You could run on logos and dance before the game. I could care less once you're gone. But that was a shameful, disgusting, heartless, cowardly performance. And I got to say, Tomlin's on alert. They should have lost 5 games in a row. The Colts threw that game away. They folded like a tent the last 5 games after going 11-0. And I understand there was some bad scheduling with the COVID, but there was nothing there. They were the worst. They were the worst team in the playoffs. Now, the second worst team in the playoffs was the Bears. The blueprint to get blown out with your road underdog is drop a pass, miss a field goal kick, have your wide receiver try to turn it to Floyd Mayweather and get kicked out, and just waste opportunities. And that's what happened with the Saints when they beat the Bears 21-9. And the Saints are going to play the Rams. And the Seahawks, I'm going to tell you something else. The Seahawks are right there with Pittsburgh as far as being a little bit of a mess. Russell was bad. He hasn't been cooking. They did not show up and play well at home. If it wasn't for Pittsburgh, that would have been the team that underachieved the worst, but Pittsburgh outstaged everyone. But the Seahawks were bad. losing to the Rams. And the Rams, let me tell you something. It was 30-20, but the Rams played better. And Goff came in the game for Wolford, and Wolford wasn't bad. Goff came in 9 of 19, 155 yards. And Cam Akers. I said the Rams could use a better running back. Cam Akers balled out. If you get that effort out of Cam Akers, their scheme is hand the ball off, play action. Everything's built off play action. So they run like the Browns. They run the ball, and then they use their play action, and their receivers run routes accordingly. And Kupp and Woods and Akers all had good games in the passing game. And the Rams defense. Jalen Ramsey's all in DK Metcalf's head. Metcalf is a young guy, so he might come back stronger. But he was all in Metcalf's head, and their defense was stout. I did not know they were number one. I did not know that at all. The Rams have the number one defense, and they're going to need it when they go to Green Bay and Lambeau Field. That's going to be a fun matchup. Now, Tampa wins. I'm going to tell you something. The Redskins tried. They battled 31-23. They battled like crazy in this game. But I think the key, and this is going to help Tampa, they have to, this Leonard Fournette 19 for 93 yards. Because Brady was only 22 or 40. He got sacked 3 times. But Brady made the plays he had to. Well, every time the Redskins would come back and get it closer, they would have that drive, that money drive, where, Evans did something, or Goodwin. I'm going to tell you something, because they're talking about Antonio Brown. Brown is like the third receiver behind Gronk and Evans. Well, fourth. This Chris Goodwin kid is really, really, really good. And he's really become a factor. And he's a guy that Brady likes to go to when he needs a first down. So they got a rematch, Tampa and New Orleans. Can Tampa? I'm thinking Brady's like, the third time should be a charm. I should come into New Orleans and beat the Saints. The Saints have Thomas back. They have Sanders playing, and Kamara is Kamara. You know that. But I'm going to tell you something, man. This Dante Harris helped. Not only on the kick return, he's a good kick and punt returner, but now they're throwing the ball to him using his speed and bubble screens. That's smart. That's real smart. There you have it. That's the NFL report. See how you like it. It's going to be online and on YouTube. Like and subscribe. I'm going to always tell the truth. Look how I tore into my own team. I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or you don't like it. Sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's harsh, but it'll be the truth. I promise you. All right, we're back here. Alabama and Ohio State. Can Alabama get revenge on losing to Ezekiel Elliott years ago, and Ohio State won their national championship for Urban Meyer? Or can Ohio State finish this season off and win the national championship game? This is a tough matchup for both teams. I think the key, and I heard a CBS reporter talk about the key is a running game, and I agree with him. I'm piggyback off what the report said. The key is a running game. Trey Sermon versus Najee Harris. And the Buckeyes he's almost rushed for 600 yards, Trey Sermon, in 2 games. And he is absolutely balling. And he's had 868 yards for the year. So he is catching fire, and he's explosive. He's got some power. They're more physical when he runs. And Fields is going to run. So Dylan Moses and Patrick Surtain, they got their hands full. This is going to be a tough matchup for Alabama. At times, their defense has been vulnerable. So it's going to be interesting to see if Ohio State, I don't think they're going to have the same intensity where they're, bulletin board material. Alabama doesn't do bulletin board material. They don't do that. They're a disciplined program. Disciplined programs always win every year. You don't see the talking and the mouthing. Teams that mouth off come and go like comets. But Alabama and Ohio State, 2 evenly match, even at quarterback. Fields, I mean, he had 1,900 yards, and Mac Jones had 4,000. But as far as just the talent, it's close to even. Jones has had a better year. Devontae Smith, Jaden Waddle, I think he's going to play. You know, you got the receivers, you got a really good tight end. Ohio State, can they get pressure? Another thing, Alabama's got a backup center in this game. Alabama's going to go right through the A gap to go right after Jones up the middle. You're going to see up the middle. If they get up the middle pressure, Ohio State's going to be national champions. If Trey Sermon runs the ball and Alabama is being vulnerable defensive Alabama, like I saw against Florida, Ohio State's going to be national champions. But if Alabama plays to their maximum, Alabama's going to win this game. But if they don't, they will lose. They have to play. And Alabama's got to have the ability to take a punch because Alabama's come out and administer the first punch in every game they play. Playing Ohio State, you might be down 14-0, where you got to still be calm and stay with your game plan and run Najee and pass and run your stuff and not panic. Can they do that? Can they sustain the punch? That's the true mark of a champion. I want to see if they do. If they do, Nick Saban's going to have his 7th national championship. Can Alabama do that? Because is this going to be the first time they deal with another opponent that can punch you just as hard as they can punch back? Florida was almost that team, but they weren't quite there. Ohio State is that team. You saw what they did to Clemson. Clemson would get the lead, they'd come back. Clemson would get a 14-7 lead, they'd come back, and then their kids kept coming after Clemson, but they were motivated to beat up on Clemson. Dabo's mouth, last year's heartbreak. Now they got to have that same energy. And is Fields healthy? Because he has to be healthy enough to be able to show that he can run and pass. That's a big part of their offense. So this is going to be fun. I'm going to do a recap show once the game is over.